Okay, hello friends and family. We are gathered here today for another Am I the A-hole? I think this is the third installation of this series. I didn't think you guys would like it, but anytime I, ask what you guys want me to schedule into the roster of, videos, this one always comes up multiple times. So I listened, you guys are the boss. And we're gonna go through some of them today. If you don't know what this series is, it's where I go on Reddit. I find stories that are plant related where people are asking if they are the a-hole in a certain situation or the other person is, and I just kind of give my thoughts and we discuss it while I repot stuff. I am not going to be showing you who's gonna be repotted today because it seems like you guys like when I just show it when it's time to repot it, so we're not gonna waste time doing that. What else? It's all anthurium today. It's a mix of plants that need to be upsized, sad anthurium, and I don't know. Yeah, that's about it. Upsizing and sad anthurium. So yeah, let's just get started. I've got my anthurium mix here. If you guys need to be reminded what it is. The base is the ProMix Mycorrhizae soil. I've got some coarse perlite in here. I have tree fern fiber. I have fir bark, not horticultural charcoal, biochar, and worm castings, and something else. Worm castings. That's it, and worm castings. So that is my go-to mix right now. And which one shall we do first? Maybe I like to usually start small. So let's go small. And the first one that I'm going to be potting today is my newest plant from Lauren at North Shore Tropicals. This is an Anthurium magnificum crossed with a Ralphlinum Fort Sherman. Very exciting. This is one that she gifted to everybody that went to the Christmas party. And yeah, this is the second leaf in my care, so I just kind of want to get things upsized now so we can see some size growth. Let's just read this first one. I have not read any of them. Like, I haven't even skimmed through them. I literally just went on my computer, I typed in plant, am I the a-hole, and I just started screenshotting, and then I just airdropped it to my phone. So hopefully these are good, because the last two videos that I did, I kind of skimmed through it a bit just to make sure it would be a good story to tell, because some of them are kind of crappy. Fingers crossed, I don't disappoint you guys. I killed most of my friend's plants while plant sitting. Am I the a-hole? Hi guys, I'm kind of embarrassed to post this, but I genuinely want to know if I'm the a-hole in this situation. Also, hi friend, if you're reading this. I didn't know how to tell you that this happened. I'm so sorry. So my friend left town due to a family emergency and left me with about 100 plants about a year ago, possibly more. I have hundreds of houseplants too, so she thought I'd be a good person to leave them with. As time went on, I kept them so healthy and cared for them. But then I went into a deep depression and eventually got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder and a connective tissue disorder that has left me basically bedbound most days. I can barely take care of my own plants, and a lot of those have died too. But there was no communication on their end if they were coming back or not, as it's been months at this point. They post like they are living there now. But now they're saying they're coming back and ask how the plants are doing, and I really don't have the heart to tell them. Is there a way to make this right? Am I the a-hole? I feel so effing bad. For more context, they didn't pay me, and I did say I was struggling months ago. Why do I have 2 cups? Oh yeah, because this has drainage holes. So for this little seedling, kind of sucks that I just watered these. I hate working with wet soil, but I am literally just going to be repotting it into this. It's not a huge jump, but it's still a jump. Regardless, I am gonna cut some drainage holes into this, and then I'm gonna stick it in another cup so that it can kind of drain out. But to go back to the story, 100 plants is a lot. I think that this person is a very good friend for for offering to watch them for free at that, because 100 plants is a lot of plants. I already feel bad when I ask friends to come to my house to watch my plants, let alone just dump 100 plants onto a friend. Like, that is a little bit crazy to me. you know, because I try and be fair and see both sides. So when this person added that, the more context part, that like she's doing this for free, and she did mention she was struggling and they still didn't offer to, you know, give compensation for plant sitting. At that point, I don't think, unless you're willing to explicitly say like, hey, yeah, I'll do it, but can you pay me this much? Then I don't think you can really hold that against them because you agreed to do it for free at that point. But I will say that jumping that many plants on someone for that long, to me, is really, really inconsiderate. I don't know what the conversation was like between them. Like, I don't know if when she or when her friend left all the plants with her, like, was there a time frame? Did she say how long she was going to be gone for? Because at that point, if you're gone for a year or almost a year, I would kind of assume that the plants have been abandoned, especially if there was no check-in and like very little communication. I just find that arrangement to be very, very strange. Now, I kind of get the impression that maybe this friend was being taken advantage of, and I do think that things that this person was going through is much more important than plants. But I think also at the same time, when things started to go downhill mentally, emotionally, physically, and the plants were starting to take a hit, I think there just should have been more communication between them. Like, I think this person should have just shot them a message, even if they didn't get a reply back, like shot them a message and been like, hey, I'm struggling a little bit right now and I need help. Like, I don't think that I can care for these plants anymore. Like, this is the state of them. Like, what do you want to do? But in terms of, I guess, saying who's the a-hole or what, I don't think that the poster was an a-hole, but I do feel like there was a massive, massive lack of communication on both of their parts. So I don't think that she's completely blameless. I think she got over her head a bit, or maybe agreed to do something without really asking enough questions. And not that that makes her an a-hole, but I don't think that you can fully blame the other person for it. But I will say, if this was done to me, I would be pretty peeved if, you know, someone was like, can you watch my plants? Then a whole year had gone by or whatever, and then suddenly they're like, I'm coming back, like I want all my plants back. Especially if I had been doing it for free, I would 100% be peeved. But the difference between me is, like, because of my anxiety, the second I saw even one plant going downhill, I'd probably be in communication right away. And again, even if my friend was not communicating back, at least there's like a record showing that I did my due diligence and I did my part in trying to keep that line of communication open, so it didn't seem like I just didn't care. And hopefully the friend has like some, you know, sympathy for the friend in terms of the things that she's going through with her mental health and her physical health, because it does sound like a lot. But yeah, I don't think that the poster was the a-hole. I wouldn't even really call the other person an a-hole, but like, if I had to choose who was being more inconsiderate, it's definitely the friend who just dumped all these plants on her and essentially took off. This root system was so microscopic. It was so tiny. I find that these little tiny pots are great for starting seedlings, like they're the perfect size, but they dry out so fast, even with a small root system. So I'm just kind of glad to get it into something bigger that can retain a little bit of water for longer. And I think it's gonna be a pretty seamless transition. This next plant, I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I don't know what it is. I know it's from my friend Amanda, but I think it's some kind of subsignatum plant. Subsignatum, not pappy, because I have mine and then I sold my other one subsignate, I don't know. Hopefully I can get the idea of it before this video goes up and I can throw it up on the screen. But this one has just been so, like, it's such a pain in the booty and it's driving me crazy. I don't know what it wants from me, but we're gonna finally get this out of no drainage. I have pretty much all of my anthurium out of no drainage at this point, with the exception of maybe like 2. So yeah, this one was just way overdue. And the root system looks quite large. And you can see how much stem is sticking out. Like, I want to get that buried. But let's move on to the next next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my roommate to move his plants? I'm not asking him to move them all. He has a lot scattered around the house, along with his other stuff taking up 80% of the available space in the house. But he has 2 giant ferns and another tall plant blocking all of the windows in the living room. The space is so dark, I have to turn on the lights in the middle of the day just to use the kitchen. We also live in a cold state and winter is coming up, so there won't be a lot of sunlight to go around soon. He's also now making us keep the back door closed, which is right next to the window, at all times due to the dropping temperatures and it being a tropical plant. My boyfriend and I have been very patient and tolerant when it comes to all of his stuff, but we both value sunlight in the winter. We spoke to him about it and he refused to do anything, said they were his favorite plants, and hasn't spoken to us since. Some important info. We live in employee housing. 4 of us live here. My boyfriend, the plant roommate, and another roommate who agrees with us. And he has been living in this unit the longest, 5 years. I've only been there 5 months, and his plants have been there since we've moved in. This kind of reminds me of another Am I the A-hole story I did in another video, where like the roommate had this massive plant that was covering the TV, but because of where the window was, he like refused to move it because it was like the only place that his plant would get sunlight. And I just feel like, regardless of who moved in first, who's been there the longest, how long the plants have been there, I think that like if you're in a situation, wow, this one has a lot of algae on the outside, look. Ugh. But again, algae is just on the outside of the vessel and it's not all over. Like if you look at the pond that was in the center, it's totally fine. Anyway, I'm like a broken record. I say that all the time because people assume that like when you get algae in your vessel, that all of the time it takes up like all of your substrate, when that's not the case. It's just the areas that are exposed to sunlight. So anywho, yeah, I think that if you are in a position where you are sharing your space with other people, I think that there should be just this, you know, a general sense of courtesy when it comes to the people you live with. If you want to have that kind of attitude where it's like, this is my stuff and this is my space and I'm going to do whatever I want, I think then you need to be in a position where you can make that happen for yourself, and you should be living, I would say, on your own at that point, because if you live on your own, you're paying rent to live on your own, then shoot, do whatever the heck you want. You know what I mean? Like nobody can tell you otherwise. But if you have to be in a, I just ripped this whole root system off. If you have to be in a position where, you know, you're kind of forced to share a space with people because financially it's the only way that you're going to be able to afford it, then yeah, you need to be able to like live cohesively and be a good roommate. And so we all understand the importance of light, and like we all want the best for our plants, obviously. But if this plant is blocking the light coming into the apartment, and I'm a huge light person, especially having come from California where all I know is sunshine, and then moving to the Pacific Northwest where sunshine is very scarce. Yeah, especially in the winter, like I get how important, you know, it is to get any kind of light into the apartment during the day, not just for my plants, but for me. Yeah, I just feel like the roommate is being entitled and like has that mentality kind of like, this is my apartment. when that's not the case. You know, she said this was employee housing, so even though he's been there the longest, it doesn't mean that like this is his apartment and like he makes the rules. Now, I think it would be different if that was the case. Like, let's say that he was the one who owned the property and then had people renting out rooms. I think if he was very clear from the beginning that like, if you want to live here, this is like how it's gonna be here. Like, this plant is gonna live here. All of the things that I have around the apartment are gonna stay where they are, and you have to be okay with it. I think at that point, then yeah, like you're the one that put yourself in that situation. You agreed to those terms. But that's not the case. Like, everybody who lives there is just as much entitled to the space as the next person. And yeah, dude, you just gotta be a good roommate. I would probably not tolerate that. If it's employee housing, I'm sure that there's like someone they could complain to about not having a great living situation. Also, I'm going to be transitioning this one to soil. And it's going to be going into here, so it's going from this to that. I would say that in this specific case, the roommate is definitely the a-hole. I regret, because I got these from a thrift store, and there was like 50 of them. They were stacked. Oh my god, that's my belly button. They were stacked. They were like $1 each or something, or I don't know, something like that. And I only grabbed 2. Why did I only grab 2? I love these bowls so much. Yeah, I really messed up. Yeah, I think the roommate is the a-hole in this situation, and I personally wouldn't want to live with someone like that who just is essentially like telling me how I have to live in my own space. I've had some pretty like weird living situations. Like, I think the strangest one, well, maybe not the strangest one. I think the strangest living situation I ever had was me living in a house full of like 5 dudes. They weren't like college guys either. They were like alcoholic party dudes that were just working. We were all the same age, but they weren't in school. Not that that like dictates anything, but meaning like all they did was work and party. Yeah, I was the only girl there, and one of them eventually developed like this obsessive crush on me that made me so uncomfortable. Like, he would literally barge into my room in the middle of the night drunkenly and just like profess his love for me and like beg me to like let him sleep in my bed. I was just like, bro, you gotta go. You gotta go. And that wasn't even the thing that like made me move out. It wasn't until one very, very bad night where like the cops had to be called, and like I got into it with one of the roommates, and yeah, I basically left like overnight because me and like his mom got into a fight. Like, it was nasty. It was a nasty fight. So anywho, I think that would be like the strangest living situation, because now if you offered me money to be living in that kind of situation with that many men, I would say there's no dollar amount that would get me to agree. But anyway, the other weird situation, living situation, was I was renting this room at this family's house, and they were very, I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know it until after, and it was a really quick move. This was after I moved out of that house with the boys, and I just needed somewhere to go. And so this was like the first thing that came up. I didn't even care. I was like, I'll take it, doesn't matter. And I didn't know that they were like super, super religious. I guess they didn't know that I had tattoos and piercings at the time, because when I met them, I didn't have any of my piercings in, and like my tattoos were hidden. So when they first saw that I had tattoos and piercings, everything changed, and they treated me so differently, to the point where like whenever I'd come home or like I'd go into the kitchen to cook something, they would hide their son. Like, their son was really young. I think he was like 3 or 4 years old, but they would make sure to like put him in a bedroom, and like he would go nowhere near me. And I think they just like thought that I was evil, and so they were trying to make my life a living hell. And I knew that they wanted me to move out, even though I was like never home. I was basically never home because I was always working, or I was at school, or I was with my friends. Like I literally went there to eat, sleep, and shower. That's it. And to like have my stuff there. I was probably there for like 6 months or something. But luckily I've never had a roommate that on this level where it was like all their stuff was everywhere, and like there were all these rules that I had to follow, and like I felt like I couldn't just live, you know? Of all the weird situations that I've been in, luckily that has not been one of them. And now she is potted. We're just working our way up here. I'm just going smallest to biggest, I think. The next one is this Anthurium dorayaki red crystal, also from Lauren. It's really strange. Like if you look at this leaf right here, like you would think, oh my gosh, that got hit with bad spider mites. No, I have tried so hard to look for spider mites on this thing. Like I wanted to see it because I'm like, what is this? Like what are all these spots? But I started noticing some fungal things on other plants. So like my polydiflorum, look at this. And no, I didn't spray it with anything. It just one day, it just appeared. It was so strange. And then same with my other pally, and they're nowhere near each other. Also has these weird spots. So I think I have something fungally going on out in my living room, which, you know, caught me by surprise given that there's plenty of airflow there. I'm not spraying those plants. I don't know. It always finds a way to find me. But what I've been doing is slowly just spraying plants with copper fungicide, and hopefully we can like catch whatever. I always say we, it's me. Hopefully I can catch whatever is spreading out there. So anyway, I'm chalking this up to like something fungal, but I don't know, it doesn't look great. And the growth is stunted as well, and that's why I thought it could be spider mites, but seriously, I've tried looking for them, and they are nowhere to be found. This one is in a mix of tree fern fiber and soil. It's still in the original pot that I got it from Lauren. Like you can see her tag on it. And I'm gonna be upsizing it into this big boy because I want to see some growth on this thing. I want this plant to flower so bad. I'd love to self it, or I'd love to hybridize it with something. That would be so fun. I'm gonna try and stay clean here. Okay, let's move on to, oh, I think you guys, yeah, I think I finished that last story, and I think the roommate was the butthole. Am I the a-hole for asking my ex to return my plants? I've been dating this guy for 3 weeks. Geez, 3 weeks, and you already have an issue. And it's been perfect until the last 2 days when out of the blue, he decided to text me and tell me he doesn't want a relationship and he feels weird. We talked it through and agreed that we didn't know each other very well, and it's probably a bit of a rash decision to end it when there's no real reason. Then 2 days later, he texts saying he's sorry and blocks me on everything. I managed to get a text through to him telling him, while I respect his choice, he's being a coward and not respecting my feelings. I also told him I'd like him to return the plants I brought to his house. You brought your plant babies to his house when you've been dating him for 3 weeks. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I know they're plants, but they're plants I spent a long time growing. I brought them to his apartment on the assumption that I'd be there a lot to look after them. I have autism and told him how much they meant to me and that the least he could do is return them. We live like 20 minutes apart, and I offered to meet him halfway, but he's refusing to return them, saying I'm being petty. Extra context, we've known each other ages, and he was super eager for me to feel comfortable in his home. I was looking after these rare plants as they had just been rooted, and I spent a lot of money on them and didn't want them to die because I wasn't at home. He said I should leave them at his house to make it easier to look after them because I was over there so much. Am I the a-hole? Okay, well that kind of changes. That kind of changes things a little bit. I need a moment. I need a moment to let this one stew. I'm not gonna untangle this root ball completely because it's essentially going into the same exact substrate. I'm just gonna loosen the bottom so that the new roots have somewhere to go. I am not seeing, oh, I can see a little bit of rot, but it looks really old. Okay, maybe I do need to take this apart just to see what's going on in here. For the most part, it looks good. There's just like one or two roots that like have turned stringy. You guys know what I mean. Let's see, like this guy right here. Fine. Maybe I will untangle it because I just can't stand the thought of rotted roots going into a new substrate. It's just a thing. So, okay, going back to this story. Spoke too soon. I was like, why would you take a plant that, you know, you love, obviously, to some dude's house that you've been dating for 3 weeks, but obviously they've known each other for a long time, and it was his idea for her to bring it over, and then considering like it's in a condition where she needs to be watching it a little bit more closely. I think it's weird that the guy doesn't want to give it back. I don't know if it's a matter of like, why should he have to meet halfway if she's the one that wants the plants back, but like the bottom line it's her plant. It's weird for you to be like, oh, just like, why do you need it? You're being petty. Dude, that's her property though. Like, why are you acting like just because you guys aren't dating anymore that now it's yours? It almost makes me feel like he wanted that plant and this was all just a ruse to get it for free. It's not coming off. Things get stuck on my belly now. It's quite funny. At that point, I really want to know, sometimes I wish that these people who are writing these stories, I wish they would say which plants they are, because it's just like, I just want to know. Not that it would change things, but you know, just out of curiosity, it's like, I just want to know which plants you're talking about. But yeah, I think dude is being really weird in this situation and like strangely, I guess, protective over property that's not his. I mean, yeah, it's on his property, but like he knew full well those were her plants and he knew full well why she brought it there in the first place. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna bring these plants over because they're our joint plants now because we're together. It was just like, oh yeah, you know, one of your plants needs help. Just bring it to my house so that you can watch it since you're here. So like, why all of a sudden does he think that, you know, it's not hers anymore? And just the whole thing of like suddenly wanting to just break up, I don't know. Red flags all over the place for me. I don't know. I feel like he is just confused in general. Confused about what he wants, confused about whose plant is whose, like, why is this even being debated? I don't get it. It's so very obvious that that is her plant and it was not a gift. It was not like a, oh, this is ours. You gotta eat it back, buddy. But again, maybe it's like maybe it's the fact like he just wants her to have to go out of her way to come get it rather than meet halfway. It kind of reminds me of this, it's not very similar, but I'm selling a bunch of stuff on Marketplace. By the way, Marketplace is the worst place on earth. It is the unhappiest place on earth. And I feel like people who go on Marketplace, as soon as they click that Marketplace button, they instantly become a different person and they become like the world's giantest a-hole. Because why are you sending incessant messages of, is it available? And then when I reply that it is available, they just ghost you. What is the freaking point of that? I have never once messaged someone on Marketplace asking if something was available if I didn't have the intention of buying it, honestly. And when I do message people on Marketplace, I don't just say, is this available? It's just, I say like, if this is available, I would like to come pick it up on this day or whenever is good for you. I don't understand the logic of just like asking someone if something's available and then you just have no interest in it. It reminded me of this, not really a transaction, but this interaction I had with this guy on Marketplace. I'm gonna be reusing this. I'm just gonna throw this into my soil bin because these plants are not very old. I am not throwing away tree fern fiber. And there's not, yeah, it looks quite clean. There's a little bit of like moss and think I got all the roots that broke off. So I'm gonna mix it into here. So it reminded me of this interaction I had with this dude. Have I been recording for over an hour? No. Okay. He was like, hey, is this available? I said, yes, it is. And on my listing, very specifically, it says, I cannot deliver, pickup is here. So he just randomly asks, like, are you ever in Vancouver? And typically I just, you know, be like, no, like the listing says you need to come pick it up. But I actually was gonna be in Vancouver, like literally within the next day. I was gonna go over to Lauren's. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be in North Van, like I'm working there all day if you wanted to come pick up there. So he literally says, he goes, oh sweet, like that's perfect. He's like, I'm over in Kits, which is like, I want to say it was like 35 minutes away from North Van, maybe more with traffic. He's like, okay, so I'm in Kits, like where do you want to meet halfway? And I was like, what? Like, who said I was meeting you halfway? I literally said, if you want to come pick it up at this specific location, I will be here until this time. And I was like, oh, sorry, like I'm not down to meet halfway. Like you can either come pick it up at my house or you can meet me at this specific address and pick it up on this day before this time. And he's just like, oh, he's like, I just assumed since you'd be in Vancouver, like it would be best if we met halfway so that I didn't have to come all the way there. And I'm like, you're the one that wants this thing. Why should I have to go out of my way to make it more convenient for you? I'm the one that's already like doing something that I said I wasn't gonna do for you. And now you want to make it even more convenient and you want me to meet you halfway so that you don't have to go all the way to where I am. I was peeved. So I just sent that message and then I blocked him. And I was like, no, I can't do this. My pregnancy rage simply can't. But I think that's what I think of when I think of this scenario, like as a maybe this is why he's not giving it back. Like he thinks it's inconvenient or he thinks it's not very respectful or something to ask him to have to meet halfway when it's something that she wants to get back. Like, yeah, if you want to get it back, then you should be the one to go all the way there, which I kind of agree with. I don't know if she ever offered to just come pick it up from his place or if it was always like a, can you meet me halfway? But even then, it's still weird. It's still weird that he's like, he thinks it's petty that she wants her plant back. It's not like she left a freaking sock there. She left her plants, like she left her whole plant. So yeah, I think in this scenario, he is the a-hole and not her. And hopefully I have all the information in that story. So I will make that judgment based on the information that was given. I think he's the a-hole. And I think he just wanted her plant. I think he saw the plant, he liked it, and he had some sinister plan. I don't know. It's the pessimist in me. I would have been like, boy, if you don't give me that plant, I will show up at your house with a police officer, and then I will egg your house. I'm just kidding. I have egged a house before though. And I've also TP'd a house. If you guys don't know what that is, it's when you like throw toilet paper all over somebody's house. It wasn't the house though, it was like a bunch of the trees on the property. It was some girl I didn't like. It was a bad time, okay? I'm not proud of it, but she did way worse to me. So that concludes my thought on that. And we are now tucked in. I hope I can see some growth on this. I hope that she doesn't have something fungal. Let's hope. Because if I start seeing spots on all of my anthurium out there, you guys, we're just not gonna own anthurium, okay? We're just gonna be a philodendron house, ripsalis house, ficus house, monstera house. I can't deal. Okay, I'm gonna let this chill. Obviously, I'm putting these all in like some kind of cover pot. I don't know which cover pot it's gonna be yet, but I will figure that out. Next one on the list is a Woohoo Tropicals plant. This is the Anthurium papilamenum Woohoo 1 crossed with a BVAP. She is stunning. She definitely also has some like spotty things, but I do think, if I can recall, this one did have some spider mites. Look how pretty this one is. Oh my gosh, I think this is one of my favorites from the plants that Woohoo sent. So yeah, it's currently in this size pot. It's so small. It's coming out of the bottom. So I'm gonna upsize it to this. I could probably go bigger like this, but do I want to? See, now I'm questioning everything. It probably could, to be honest. Yeah, let's just do it. YOLO. My leca is dwindling down. I hope I have enough. This one is also living in tree fern fiber, so I'm gonna probably reuse it if there's not a lot of root breakage. Pudge is going crazy because he heard me scooping leca. Dorayaki Red Crystal, where are you? I'm not sure if I'm gonna get through all of these. Oh my gosh, stay down. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get through all of these because I did want this one to be a little bit shorter than the rest, and I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants. Oh, maybe we will. We'll see. Okay, am I the a-hole for being angry at my dad for killing my plant? For context, I had been growing a cosmos flower. Oh, so this is outdoor gardening. I don't know anything about outdoor gardening, but it's still plants. For context, I had been growing a cosmos flower in a small flower pot on my windowsill. I had been caring for it for the last month or so, and it has been very fun to grow this flower. Oh my gosh, my nose won't stop running. Sorry, hold on. I gotta pee. I definitely had a growth spurt in week 20. I'm feeling huge these days and I'm only halfway. I really don't know where this child is gonna go, and I don't know how my skin is gonna stretch even more than it has. It already feels so stretched, and I'm using so many creams and oils. Pregnancy is weird, you guys. I hope I only do this once in my life, please. Okay, sorry. For context, I had been growing a cosmos flower in a small flower pot on my windowsill. I had been caring for it for the last month or so, and it's been very fun to grow. I'm super protective of the things I care for, and this flower was no exception. I wouldn't let anyone else touch or water the flower. Due to my immense care for the group of flowers, they have flourished. However, on one fateful day, this all changed. Dun dun dun! Today I was sitting at my desk watching some YouTube like a regular individual. A few moments later, my dad waltzed into my room and opened my bottom window. I explicitly told him to be careful not to knock over the flower pot on my windowsill. Ignoring this, he told me something about how my room was uncomfortably hot and needed ventilation. I thought nothing of this. How wrong I could have been. About 15 minutes later, my dad calmly meanders into my room, over to my window, and lowers the upper window. Then he turns on a fan and places it in front of the lower window to flush out the hot air. As I vividly remember, I told him to be mindful of the plant on my windowsill. After doing this, I returned to YouTube. However, within 20 seconds of watching, I hear the fan drop onto my flower pot and crush 2 out of the 4 flower stems inside the pot. Due to this, I quickly shouted, got to my feet, and simultaneously grabbed the fan, throwing it to the side. I quickly scolded my dad and began to cry. I grabbed the flower pot while shouting at my dad for being a clumsy fool and grabbed the nearest thing I could. I jammed a pen, which was sitting on my desk, into the pot and taped the flower to the pen. For the second flower, I grabbed a small metal rod, which was also laying on my desk, and I jammed it into the pot and quickly taped it onto the dying flower. To add insult to injury, my dad said, I only harmed half of them, so it's not that big of a deal. However, those were the ones I had been nurturing for the last month, and they also had the biggest and strongest stems. Also, as mentioned above, I am very protective of the plant and was distraught that even half of them were injured. Because of this, I have not talked to my dad and have been ignoring him and his attempts to apologize. I don't know if my anger is justified or if I'm just being petty. Edit. Contrary to my dramatic writing, I did not throw a tantrum. I see how it could be interpreted that way. Am I the a-hole? I think you throwing a tantrum is subjective to the person reading. Also, it has a new leaf coming out. I try to not do anything while a new leaf is coming out, but here we are, you guys. I'm not going to be chopping the stem or anything, so let's see if I can get these out of here. Definitely needs a new pot though, because some of these roots that have started to poke out are dry. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Seems like she really loves this plant, as we can all relate, and we know how difficult it can be to grow certain plants and nurture them until they actually look like something that you can admire. I think she was justified in her anger and her frustration, especially after she had literally warned him of exactly what happened. Like, she wanted to prevent that. But then there's another part of me that's like, well, he obviously didn't do it on purpose. But at the same time, you know, when he says it's not that big of a deal, then, you know, you're kind of not validating her feelings about the situation, and like, you're basically saying to just like calm down and she's overreacting, when I think that her reaction was justified. I'd be upset too. I think the only difference is that and it could just be how I was raised, but I just could never talk to my parents that way. Again, every relationship is going to be different, and I just come from a place where I have always tried to speak to my parents with respect, even when I was angry or whatever, frustrated with them. No matter what situation I've ever been with, specifically I will say with my dad, because we've had kind of a difficult relationship growing up to get to where we are now. But even in the times where things got very, very heated between us two, we've never resorted to like name calling or anything like that. So I think that like it was a little harsh that she was calling him a fool and like just like saying all these things. But at the same time, it's like he clearly doesn't respect how she's feeling, or he didn't respect how she was feeling at the time when it happened, by trying to like downplay how bad it was. Like, oh, it was only half of them, it was not even that bad. But it's like, that's not the point. That's not why she's mad. It's like, the point is that you damaged something that she was trying to tell you, like, you need to be careful. She doesn't want you doing that because that might happen. And then it happens. And then you act like, oh, well, whatever, it's not a big deal. That would genuinely piss me off too. I think the only difference would have been our reaction. And I think especially because, you know, plants grow back. It's not like a permanent thing like that. But I don't want to undermine how she's feeling at the same time. I don't want to undermine the work she's put into it and like the joy she got from seeing it flourish to be that big. So I certainly see both sides. Going to the end of the story where she says that she's essentially ignoring him and she's deflecting any kind of apology on his end. Now, we don't know what that apology looks like. We don't know if it's like a sincere apology or if it's like a half-assed apology. I don't know. But I'm just gonna assume that when she says apology, it means like a genuine apology and she's not really having it. I am a huge proponent in protecting your peace, surrounding yourself with people who share your values and respect you in every way possible. And if you have to cut people out, including family, I am a huge advocate for that, because I have done it and I will recommend it to anyone, no matter what they say to me. I don't believe that you are obligated to anyone just because you guys share the same blood. But at the same time, I think she's entitled to be upset, and she doesn't necessarily have to forgive him on his timeline. I think it's great that he apologized, but I think he also needs to like give her the space and time she needs to kind of like process how she feels about it, process her feelings, simmer down, just collect her thoughts in general. I don't feel like the second you apologize to someone, you have to like, that person has to be like, okay, I forgive you. Like, okay, I'm over it. You know, like put your apology out there and just wait for them to come to you. But it sounds like she's still really, really peeved by the situation. And again, we don't know the history of their relationship. We don't know if they have a good relationship. We don't know if things like this have happened in the past before, maybe not specifically with plants, but just other things in terms of respecting boundaries and just respect in general, I guess. I want to rip off these lower leaves so that I can bury it deeper, but at the same time, I don't really like pulling leaves off when a new leaf is coming in. So I'm just gonna top up as much as I can now, and then maybe once this new leaf hardens off, then I'll add more soil. So if I had to make a judgment call, I will say she's not the a-hole in this situation. I think she was angry and she had a right to be angry. She had her stuff that was destroyed, and then her feelings were essentially diminished. But I don't think that I would have reacted the same way. But we're all different. We all have different ways we cope, different ways we react. We all have a different relationship with our parents, if we have a relationship with them at all. So that's just my feeling on it. But now I want to Google what this flower looks like. Cosmos flower. I don't know if this is the right one. It's like a pink flower. By the way, you guys will notice that I have not been inoculating the roots with my myco, like where I usually sprinkle it on, and that's just because I plan to just inoculate the water and water it in. I cannot wait for winter to be over, you guys. I'm actually quite enjoying, well, I'm enjoying the weather from home. Like when we had a snow day yesterday, it was just so nice to be at home and just watch the snow falling outside, and it's so beautiful, and to just, you know, we made a hot chocolate, and it was just, yeah, it was really nice. And there's a part of me that does love winter. Like I just love like that nice crisp air. I feel like the older I get, the less tolerant of heat I become. So in that sense, yeah, I've been enjoying winter, but at the same time, for the sake of my plants, how did I not get him? Oh, I killed him on my leg. For the sake of my plants, I am so ready for it to be warm and for them to get more direct sunlight on that shelf, because some of them are really struggling. But we're not going to greenhouses again with anthurium. I'm just not going there. Who is next? Let's do my Pally next, because this one isn't the world's tiniest little thing. This one needed to be upsized so long ago, but what do I want to put it in? Here's what I'm thinking. God, this chair is very uncomfortable. I think I'm gonna do, excuse me, sir, you're taking up all the space. I think I'm gonna do this. Same circumference, but double the depth. Double the depth, double the fun. And then I'm gonna stick it in here. So I'm gonna cut some drainage holes into this pot. Where's my skizzer? It's so hard cutting holes, slits onto this thing, but Lauren is so good at it. Me and Alice could not figure out how to do it, and she did it so fast. She's like, you gotta squeeze. But I'm like, I am squeezing. I'm squeezing. So sometimes I just do the, you know, the method with whatchamacall, the awl, where I just poke holes in it, but I like actual slits better. See, Lauren, I can't do it. I can't. Please, I just want one hole. That's what she said. I don't know how she does this, honestly. She does it so fast, too. I just can't get it at the right angle. I feel like I'm gonna break this scissor before I even cut a hole. Oh, I think I got it. Yes. Haha, success. Okay, you know what? You're gonna get one slit. That's all you get. Whatever. A hole's a hole, that's what he said. Let's move on to the next story. I said she's not the a-hole. Dad was the a-hole. And that's that. Am I the a-hole for refusing to leave my plants behind? I, 23 female, have been in the dorm the whole year with my roommate, who's a 19 female. And we've talked about living together in an apartment next year since probably October. It's been known that I will be bringing my plants with me. I have a lot, and I'm also studying plant science. It's also been a fact that she will be bringing her cat that she already has in her hometown. Recently, we were joking about where to put certain plants, and I remembered that some are toxic to cats. So I looked up a few plants, and yep, it's toxic. We both agreed that I should keep those in my room, and I agreed to her to research more of which are toxic so I can keep them in my room. Spoiler, it's all of them. Also to add, I'm $1,000 deep into this just for supplies, probably totaling 1.5K with the cost of the plants. The next day, while she's in her hometown, she sends me a Snapchat asking for me to not bring any toxic plants at all because she's a helicopter mom to her cat. I told her I was okay keeping them in my room. She tells me to not bring them or she's backing out of the housing arrangement, which we've already signed a lease, and they would just place us elsewhere in the complex, so it's no issue with housing. Wait, what? She tells me to not bring them or she's backing out of the housing arrangement. The lease is already signed. They would just place us elsewhere in the complex, so no issue with housing. I tell her to do it then, that I'm not going to throw away my plants because she can't keep her cat out of my future room. She starts telling me that it's a compromise because I can just leave them at my parents' house an hour and a half away. So since I'm 23, this apartment will be my home until I graduate. Going home every weekend is not feasible for me. I tell her that I'm willing to buy a barricade for my plants, floor to ceiling height. Whoa. So my plants are out of reach. She says no. I offer to pay for vet bills if we ever have an issue of her cat getting sick from my plants. She says no. I offer to keep them in the walk-in closet of the unit and to only open the closet door if my bedroom door is shut. She still says no. She claims I'm being unfair and rude and that I don't care about her plants, and she says I'm being unfair and rude and that I don't care about her cat and that my plants are just plants. Am I the a-hole for not telling her no to her demands? That one got my blood pressure going. No, I don't think right away. I don't think that the poster is an a-hole at all. I mean, I get the concern. Obviously, I too have the same. Where is this plant? I too have the same worries about Pudge getting into plants that he's not supposed to. Like when I had Jupiter at my house, this is when I still owned my cat before I gave her to my mom. Yeah, she, had nibbled on a rubber plant. She had nibbled on a Chinese fan palm, and I freaked out because, she's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to keep her out of the plants, keep her safe. Oh my gosh, fungus gnat galore. So, update with the fungus gnats. I am going to be getting this stuff called neem cake from my friend Jessica. She says it smells god-awful, but she says it works really well. I think I mentioned this in another video, but I'm just waiting for the roads to get better. I might go pick it up on Friday, but she says that it kills the gnats and their nasty little babies very, very quickly. So yeah, obviously I felt guilty when my cat first got into my plants because if she got sick, that would totally be my fault. At the same time, in this situation, I do think that the person that she was gonna roommate with is being completely unreasonable. You should not be able to dictate what is in somebody else's own bedroom, especially they're paying for it. And this is not like she's moving into your apartment. You guys are moving into an apartment together. So just as you have every right to bring your cat, she should have every right to bring her plants. And I feel like the person who posted this was being more than reasonable and was going above and beyond. I'm gonna tell you right now, if I was her, I would not have offered all those things. I would not have offered to do a floor to ceiling barricade for my plants. I would not have offered to put my plants into a freaking closet. How can you even enjoy them that way? Nobody wants a floor to ceiling barricade in their bedroom just for plants. And your cat shouldn't even be in your friend's room at all. And if you really are a helicopter mom, then she wouldn't be in that bedroom, because if you are watching her like you say you are, like a helicopter, then that wouldn't be an issue. Keep your cat out of your friend's room, and your friend will keep the plants out of the common spaces. It's just like common sense. I think she just got it in her head where she's just like, no, like you're not gonna bring plants. And it's not even a matter of like a safety thing anymore. I almost feel like it's like a pride thing. Like she was just trying to make a point. These spots are so freaking ugly. Can't stand it. I think if you are worried about your cat getting into your roommate's plants that are in her bedroom, I think that's a you problem, because I, for one, wouldn't want my friend's cat just like going into my bedroom willy-nilly. Like that's my space. That should be a place where I can have anything that I want in there, do anything I want in my bedroom. I think it would be different if the person who posted was saying like, well, I don't think it's fair that I can't have plants in the common areas and things like that. Like she was compromising way more than the roommate. It's funny how the roommate was like, you're not compromising, when it's actually the other way around. The roommate, the other girl, was the one who wasn't willing to compromise. The other girl went like way above and beyond to try and make it work, but it was just like, she just was not taking no for an answer. So I totally do not think that she was being the a-hole in this situation, and neither did Reddit. So for some of these, Reddit didn't vote, and so yeah, there was like no vote on it. But this one did have a vote. They voted her not the a-hole. But I think this was a blessing in disguise, because imagine how neurotic and bossy this person would have been as a roommate. Like I feel like that is just a roommate from hell situation. And I think this person dodged a bullet. I think this person got really lucky in this situation coming up when it did, before it was too late. Because I too have been in that kind of roommate situation where you thought it was going to be a good thing, and then as soon as you guys moved in together, she flipped a switch and she turned on me. She was like a totally different person. She like acted like she was my mom. She was telling me what I could and couldn't do. She was like telling me which room I could and couldn't have when we both were paying the equal amounts. Like it was just really weird. But she said because she found the place that she should have dibs on the bedroom she wanted, the bathroom she wanted. She should be able to have the garage. I was just like, so you're not paying anymore, but because you're the one that found this place, you think you're entitled to all that? Like, mind you, this did not come up until we actually moved in. So if all of this came up beforehand, I would have been like, yeah, I'm not gonna live with you because you're kind of bananas. So yeah, as annoying of a situation as that is, I think that it turned out for the best, probably for both of them, because this girl with the cat, I mean, I also don't want to like mitigate her feelings, but it sounds like she has like mad anxiety when it comes to like the health of her cat, so probably isn't in her best interest either to live with someone who wants plants that could be toxic for the cat. So I think that honestly it worked out for both of them. Okay, Polly is in. Oh, I'm so sad about it. But you know what? We're gonna be fine. We're not focusing on the negative. That works out pretty well. I wish that they made more pots like this, where it's like, you know, a clear inside pot, a clear outside pot, and you just stick it together. And I wish they came in larger sizes, because the ones that they do have are like a 3-inch diameter. I'm like, what am I gonna do with a 3-inch pot? Oh, I am so happy I am taking a shower after this video, because there is dirt everywhere, you guys. There's dirt in my shorts because my shirt keeps getting lifted. All I own are freaking crop tops. Why do I have so many crop tops? I need to grow up. And I've been refusing to spend money on maternity clothes. I bought one pair of maternity leggings, and I've been trying to make that work. I've been refusing to buy a maternity bra because I don't want to spend the money on a bra I'm gonna wear once in my life. But I am busting out of all my bras now and it's so wildly uncomfortable. So my husband is like, please, please just go buy a bra. For the love, just go buy one. Okay, I gotta show you this situation with this Carla B vet, but I'm gonna dump this soil really quick. I was very confused looking at this. So I know that this plant is unhappy because it has now dropped all of its leaves. Basically, this one is, I give it like 3 days before it's gone. But then I noticed that it has a new leaf, but it freaking snapped at the petiole. The petiole snapped. Oh my God, there's fungus gnats everywhere. I'm just hoping that it can heal itself. I'm hoping that it can heal itself. Sorry, let me take this out. Where the bend is, I think you guys can see where it snapped right here. There's still a piece of it that's connected at the tissue. And I've had plants before. Which plant was it? It still has a tape on it to this day. And it's been fine, but we'll see if the leaf continues to grow or if it dies off. But it's also pushing an inflow. Look how tiny it is. Hello? What are you focusing on? Look how tiny that inflow is. It's the world's tiniest inflow. I don't even know if I should cut it off. And I don't know why it's trying to do so much when it looks like this. I do see some rot in here, so I want to get it out. I'm going to actually be sticking this in my tent while it rehabs because clearly it is not enjoying wintertime in the living room. Okay, so yeah, in that situation, the other person was the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for being mad at my girlfriend because she just spent over $300 on houseplants? We are unemployed due to COVID-19 and trying to save and budget our money. My girlfriend just excitedly told me she just spent over $300 in houseplants for a house we rent, expecting me to be happy as well. Needless to say, I got a bit angry and told her that it was a really dumb financial decision at this time. Now she is mad at me and is calling me a dick for not being excited as well. Am I the a-hole? Edit, because people are asking. We have been in a 10-year committed relationship and share all of our finances. As much as I'm a feminist and I'm like, don't you ever let a man tell you what to do. I think in this scenario, splurging on houseplants for $300, yeah, I don't know if I could support that considering the financial situation that they were in. Oh yeah, this leaf is toast. It's like, yeah. You guys, I would be so surprised if this leaf recovered from this, or if it even recovers this repot, or makes it through this repot. I would be stunned. But look, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna rip it off, you guys. It was done for. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not crying. I'm not crying, you're crying. The roots look nasty, but I do see some new roots. I think we're just gonna go full on rehab with this. Just fine. Yeah, I think that was I do think it was a dumb financial decision. Like, you guys are already struggling during the pandemic. And I get, you know, how, like, houseplants really saved a lot of people during the pandemic in terms of mental health. So I don't want to, like, downplay that at all. But at the same time, you didn't need to get plants or a plant that expensive. I just don't know how you could justify it, like putting yourself in a position where maybe you can't pay rent, you can't pay for your, you know, your bills because you spent it on a plant. I can't get behind it, especially since they share the finances and it's not like it's her money. Because there was a situation like this in another Am I the A-hole where they didn't share the finances and he was mad that like she was spending all this money on plants. But it's like, her money is her money. Like, I don't think that, like, if she has the means for it and you're just annoyed that she's spending all that money, like, kind of a you problem in my opinion. And maybe I feel that way because I am in a position where I have a partner who's so supportive of the hobby, who trusts me to make the right financial decisions when it comes to this hobby, doesn't tell me how much time I should be dedicating to this hobby, and I just feel like it should always be that way. But again, not everybody is in the same financial position that I'm in, right? I do not think that the boyfriend was being an a-hole in this situation. I think he was being a realist. I think he was just trying to, you know, do what was best for them. And I do think he had a right to be angry. I'm pretty sure that if I was in that same situation with Vince and we were sharing finances, and during COVID, if things were really hard for us, and then I was like, oh, look, I spent all this money on plants, like, be happy for me. As supportive as Vince is, I do not think he would have been happy for me. I really don't. I think this tree fern fiber was way too chunky. There was no perlite in it. It's sopping wet, and I'm feeling better about getting it into my mix, because this just, I think the combination of it being wintertime, it being out in the living room, being in a very dense substrate, it just was not, it was not living La Vida Loca. So that was my fault. I should have made sure that it wasn't too wet. That's what he said. But now we know. And I'm putting it in my tent, so I think it's gonna recover nicely. As sad as I am that I wasn't able to see the new leaf on this one, and it looked like it would have been a decent size. We're not gonna cry over spilled milk. I think I was gonna put it in this one, but now I'm like, do I even, like, because we're rehabbing, you know, we're not trying to, like, I'm really not worried about sizing up right now. I just want it to kind of be on the mend. And so I think I'm gonna opt for something a little smaller. Oh, and I had an update for you. I didn't want to read it right away. Oh, I have to sanitize my phone after this. There's dirt everywhere. He did write an update. After reading some of the wonderful responses and great budgeting advice in this thread, we had a very productive talk about our finances. And she agreed, ow, my butt hurts. She agreed that the $300 houseplants were an impulse buy. She apologized and canceled her order. I suggested that instead of spending $300, we can spend significantly less on a couple of houseplants that the two of us can pick together. We plan on doing that today. Furthermore, we are planning to give ourselves a budget of 10% that we can freely spend on our hobbies, but anything more than that, and it would have to be something we talk about first. We both think that's a great idea moving forward. This, and also we plan on making a spreadsheet of our finances to see the exact amount our spending limit would be. It was a great talk for the two of us, and it made us all the more understanding of one another. Thank you all for the help and encouragement. We just love a happy ending, don't we? This is just my nature. When I hear about a man getting angry at a girl, I'm like, oh, I'll go cry about it. Don't tell her what to do. But just how everything has been worded from the beginning, he does sound like a very reasonable guy who does care about her feelings, but you know, obviously was put in a position that made him very uncomfortable, so I understand where he's coming from, and I'm really glad that they were able to work through it. Oh, that was a big kick. I'm not a financially savvy person. Like, don't talk to me about budgeting and investments and stuff like that. Like, I'm doing the bare minimum. I only recently opened my own investment accounts outside of the ones that I have with Vince. But I will say that budgeting and talking openly about budgeting with your partner is so important, and it's something that I avoided for a long time because talking about money makes me extremely uncomfortable. I've always just been weird about it, and I think that's normal. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's just like, don't talk to me about money. It's just weird, right? Without getting too much into detail, like me and Vince, we still have separate finances, and I don't think that I'll ever want to be in a place where we share finances. I like the idea that we have our own separate bank accounts, my cash flow coming in, his cash flow coming in, all separate, but we have openly put out like what are our expenses, who's paying for what, like what's an equal, like what's a good share for each of us to contribute to this and that. how much do we want to be putting towards our emergency fund, our, you know, our investment accounts, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that would stress me out talking about it and trying to like get those numbers in, because I don't do good with math. I don't do good with any of that stuff. Like, it stresses me out even thinking about it. Like, I don't even want to talk about it, but I'm glad that we eventually did, because over the last like year, we've been able to not only save more, but just like be on the same page in terms of our goals. I'll give you an example, and I'm just, you know, I'm an oversharer, and I feel like I can just be honest with you guys. Of course I have limits, but like, let's just, this one example. So over the last few years, I had been giving Vince money here and there to put into our investment accounts for a down payment on a house. Like, that is one of my main goals. I want to own a home, especially now that I'm pregnant. Like, I want to be able to pass down like assets to Archie. So I just assumed that like he had that all taken care of. You know, Vince is the numbers guy, he's the money guy. And I didn't really question anything until Pudge's surgery came up a couple months ago. And he was like, oh yeah, we have about this much money that we can spend. Like, it's not a big deal, you know, let's not worry about the finances. Let's just get the surgery done, because we have all of this money set aside. And that's when I asked, like, where did all that money come from? Like, why do we have so much in this one account that can easily just be pulled from? And that's when he told me that like, that's where some of the money that I had been sending him is going. And I just got a little flustered and was like, well, I thought the money that I was giving you was for the down payment on a house. And he's like, no, I actually don't even have a separate investment account or savings account or whatever for our down payment. I've just kind of all been putting it into this one account, and we can use this for emergencies. We can use it for anything. And I was like, let me just stop you there. I like the idea, and I like that we and you've thought of us having an emergency fund, because you never know what could happen. Like, I get canceled, he gets laid off, something, right? And we need to be able to pay rent and things like that, make car payments. But I said, I thought I was very clear in where I wanted my money to go to when I was giving you money. Come here, come here. You little cutie, come here, you little cutie. Yeah, like, I was just very direct with him. I was very upfront about where I specifically wanted my money to be going. And so, yeah, we spent one night just allocating one investment fund that would be for our future house. He went all the way back to all of the transfers that I had sent him and put it all in a spreadsheet, how much money was gonna go into this new fund. And so we hammered it all out. We were on the same page. And now, since going forward, it's like, when I send him money, it's very clear where things are going. When I'm putting money aside in my own investment accounts, it's like, I know what that's for. It's for retirement, it's for Archie, it's for whatever. It can be stressful to think about it, especially if you're like me and you really just don't like thinking about money. But I do think it's necessary to get on a good budget. All that to say, I think it's great that they were able to come to an agreement that worked for them, and that they were able to get through it without getting into like an argument or without fighting, and finding something that works for them, because it can be very tricky to get on the same page, I think. So this next one is another plant, Amanda plant. This is a Forgetii Carla. This leaf going out. I can see some bad roots on this one as well. Blood pressure is gonna go up with these freaking fungus gnats. This is also in just like basically pure tree fern fiber with a little bit of pon, and I want to make sure that I can get it into an organic mix with soil and perlite. Ooh. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Fungus gnats. Oh, you guys. You're probably so grossed out by me. Trust me, I'm grossed out too. That looks awful. And it's a good thing I got it out of here. I can see a lot of good roots. Not a lot. I can see some new roots, I should say. But I would say 90% of it has rotted. It's rough out here. Okay, let's move on to the next story while I clean this one up. This one's pretty short. Am I the a-hole for not being remorseful about my dog ripping up my roommate's dead plant? My roommate cannot take care of plants. The first month we were here, all of them died. My dog, 10 months old, ripped up one of them on the porch. My roommate got so pissed off at me because I wasn't very upset about it. She said I owe her a plant, and I'm thinking, a dead one? She needed a new one anyway, so why does it matter? Tough crowd, tough crowd. I'm gonna take this off because it's pissing me off. So I think no matter if your roommate is good or bad at caring for plants, I think the bottom line is that your dog destroyed her property, whether it was dead or not. You weren't remorseful. I mean, you're clearly not remorseful about it. So yeah, I do think you're kind of the a-hole in this situation. At the same time, it's like, if the plant was dead, like, why do you want another one? I don't know. I guess I could see how he would be pissed, where it's like, you want me to replace the plant, you want me to replace a dead plant with a live one. Like, I can understand how that could be upsetting and annoying, but again, I think it's just the bottom line is like, your dog destroyed something that wasn't yours to destroy, and that should just be the end of it. I think I probably wouldn't try and fight it any more than that, but I think the lack of remorse kind of shows that, I don't know, you're kind of an a-hole. I don't know, guys. This one's hard. If this was a scenario where it was just like, she was not even just good at houseplants, but the houseplants are alive and thriving, they're okay. Yeah, I would say he's the a-hole. Like, dude, your puppy ruined someone's plant, you better replace it. But it's like the fact that she's asking him to replace a plant that was already dead. I don't know, that seems a little weird, don't you think? Man, this root system was terrible. I'm surprised both of these leaves didn't die off, but it kind of looks like it's starting to yellow. And I should have known when this new leaf came out, and it was like half the size of the old ones. There's also quite a long stem on this, so I think I'm actually gonna chop it. Brigidia Carla. At this point, I'm not like, you know, I don't have like a big, healthy, beautiful plant, so I might as well try and get some props from it. So let's go get some clean shears. And I think I'm just gonna chop this maybe twice. Here is the stem. I think I'm gonna chop down here for a little nubbin. The tiniest little thing. And then maybe do a bigger one that's a little bit more guaranteed. This little dude. And I still have a good amount of stem on this one. I could probably chop it even more, but kind of also don't really want to risk the entire plant dying since all the roots are up here. So I'm gonna leave it since I still do have 2 leaves up here. I'm gonna put it in the same size vessel, I think. I was gonna move it into this one, but that is way too big for a rehab plant, I think. I kind of want to put more perlite into this little batch, or into this one specifically, just because it's such a dicey root system. Oh my gosh, my camera has been running for almost 2 hours. I haven't stopped it yet. I think that's a record. So while I pot these off camera, and I'm just gonna be doing it into tree fern fiber, I will send you guys off on an ad break. We will finish potting the last one. I have 1 left, and I think I have 2 stories left, so it's kind of perfect timing. And I'm gonna stick this in my tent as well, just because I'm not I don't want to rehab anything out there. Oh. Whew, you guys, I think it's gonna be a struggle over the next few months filming as I get bigger because I'm just constantly uncomfortable. I can't breathe. I have to pee every like 5 minutes, it feels like. But I'm gonna try and make it work. I'm gonna try and hold on to whatever I can while he's not here. Where is... Okay. Hopefully it has a better time in here and living in the tent. Fingers crossed we can get it to rehab before those leaves fall off. I am not feeling super confident, but it is what it is. Okay, so ad break and I'll see you in a bit. Last plant on this roster is a fave around here, and that is my own little hybrid. I just saw another fungus gnat fly out of it. This is my Crystal Mag Dark Forgetii that I hybridized myself. This was my favorite seedling that came out of that batch, and it is actually pushing its first inflow, and I am so excited. I don't know what the plan is gonna be. It's the first inflow, and so, you know, it's a hit or miss with how large it's gonna be, how strong and viable it's gonna be. But I think, I don't know. I think, so I have options. I have extra pollen from this Crystal Black. I have an inflow coming in on my Crystal Mag Lux. What else do I have? I have Carla Bevep, which I don't know if the pollen is still good because it's an old inflow. Those spider mites? No, just dust. So yeah, I don't know. And obviously I can also see what Lauren has, but I just think this is such a fun one. Like, it's got a nice leaf shape. The venation is really nice on it as well. It has a nice little pink sinus here. Nice pebbly texture. Who wouldn't want to make babies with this one? Come on. Oh no. This one I'm repotting simply because it's just outgrown this cool little pot that I literally feel like I just put it into here not too long ago, and she's already root bound, so it's just time to get her out. And I'm going to be repotting it into this. I think that's a good, I mean, I could probably even go bigger, to be honest, because like the size of this isn't that much bigger. Should I? Dare I? Going big, and I have faith. I have faith in this one. She's been good to me. She's been very resilient, and so I think I'm gonna go for the big guns. And it's not actually that much bigger of an upsize anyway, so I think she'll be a-okay. Okay, so let's get into, I think that there's two more stories here. Am I the a-hole for watering my girlfriend's plants without permission? I, 22 male, have been dating Lucy, 23 female, for 6 months. Lucy loves gardening and has a small garden in her backyard that she tends to. Lucy let me stay overnight at her house so we could wake up on Christmas Day together. I ended up waking earlier than her, around 7 a.m., and decided to do her a favor by watering her plants for her. I ended up using an old soda bottle to water them since I couldn't find any watering cans. I told Lucy about this and she looked horrified. Lucy explained that her sprinkler system went off around 5 a.m. and watered plants for her, so they got double watered. Lucy said they could drown. I stupidly mentioned that I didn't use a proper watering can, and she just had an expression of worry on her face. I apologized profusely, and Lucy said it was fine, but she still looked worried and kept looking at the window that faces the backyard of her house. Apparently Lucy told her friend Ashley what I did, and she texted me that I needed to stay in my lane when it comes to my girlfriend and that I was a thoughtless idiot that nearly killed her plants. Harsh. Harsh, harsh, harsh. Oh, I hate that this substrate is wet too, but my plants really needed to be watered. Initial thoughts on this. I think he was just trying to do a nice thing, and it just ended up being the wrong thing. The poor guy. I don't think that he's an asshole at all. I think he was just trying to do something nice for her, but didn't realize that he was actually doing more harm than good. And so that kind of sucks, because yeah, obviously he goes out of his way to like say, I'm gonna do this to, you know, make her day or whatever, and then it doesn't sort of pan out that way. But I think what the friend said, like, he's a thoughtless idiot, like, geez Louise, is that really necessary? Like, I get it could have been a bad situation, like, we don't know how it turned out if her plants died, but he was trying to do a nice gesture, and it just was not, it just didn't pan out that way. But I don't think that makes him a thoughtless idiot. I think if anything, he was trying to be thoughtful. Probably just thinks, oh, plants like to be watered. Like, there are some people who think like plants need to be watered every single day, and it doesn't matter how much water you give them as long as you give them water, and they just don't know. Like, if Vince did that, I mean, he knows better than to water my plants without my permission, but if he thought he was doing something good and was like, oh, I watered your plants for you, and was like all, you know, giddy about it, like he had just done something good for me, I really wouldn't make him feel like he was the worst person ever. And obviously he feels remorseful about it, and he's going on Reddit to see like if he really did a bad thing. And I do feel bad that the friend made him feel like he was like literally a bad person for doing that, because I don't think that made him a bad person. I think he just needs to understand that like something like that, like you need to ask permission, you know, since he doesn't know about plants, obviously. But I don't think he was an a-hole. I think, and I don't even think Lucy was the a-hole. I think the friend was the a-hole. Obviously, Lucy was upset about it enough that she like went and talked to her friend about it, but she clearly was just venting, and she didn't want him to feel bad. I think the friend was out of line for going to the boyfriend and then saying all that stuff. Like, if any of my friends did that and like messaged Vince and said all that, I'm sorry, but I would say something. I'd be like, first off, the only person who talks to my man like that is me. Just kidding. I don't even talk to Vince like that. So I'm seeing a bit of rot in the center here in terms of like the really tiny roots, but overall the root system looks really good, and I'm happy with it. And I do think that it'll be fine transitioning into that larger pot. I think I've cleaned it up enough. Like, if I didn't, like, boo-hoo, oh well. But this soil is so drenched. This plant room needs to be cleaned. I need to be cleaned. Look at these nails. I haven't done my nails in ages. I've just been like not really caring about that stuff lately. Yeah, that was my thought on that. And let's get to this last story since I'm almost done here. Oh my gosh, this is a long one. Okay, am I the a-hole for... My nails look so gross. Am I the a-hole for stealing my sister's plant after she stole my plant and refused to give it back? T. Hi, I'm 19 female going through a tricky situation with my sister, 21 female. A few months back, I stayed with her briefly as we planned to live together. I had brought over some of my stuff to her house, one of these items being my favorite vining plant that was gifted to me by my mom. However, the whole living situation ended up going into chaos because of our differences, and I found another place to live. When I asked for my things back about a month later, she refused to return the plant and even told me I was power tripping when I pressed for it. Her reasoning was that she had raised it for a literal month while I had it for a year before that, and now it was happy where it was and it wouldn't be happy in my place. We had a pretty bad fight before all of this happened, and so she also said she was taking the plant as justification for the hurt and stress I had caused her during this conflict. I was also hurt and stressed out from the same conflict. It was a two-way street. She then decided we needed to take a break from each other, so she didn't speak to me for another month or two. When we finally started speaking again and spending time together, every time I was at her place, I would see the plant and be reminded of that violation of trust. Not just that one instance, but all the other similar violations and damages to our relationship throughout my life. She has a pattern of taking things from me without any care or consequence. I felt that I always had to be the one that just accepts it and moves on to keep the peace, so I didn't say anything about it at first, even though the whole thing disrupted my own peace. The other day I was at her place and all of that intense energy I had been holding in poured out of me, and I expressed, not very skillfully to be fair, my frustration and insisted to have the plant back. She again refused to return it because it had grown so much during the time apart and told me to let it go because it's just a plant. The situation escalated and she ended up taking the plant into her car and driving away. Oh my gosh. When she left, in the heat of the moment, I decided to take one of her other plants. I was so overwhelmed by my frustration of not being heard and wanted her to realize how it felt to have something valuable taken away from you. I understand this wasn't a wise decision, but the damage has already been done and she has now renounced me as her sister and told me she hopes I'm miserable for the rest of my life. This was long, so thank you for reading. I know my actions in this situation didn't completely reflect this, but I really do value my relationship with my sister. So I'm just wondering if I'm the a-hole and how to move forward and rebuild trust on both ends. Wow. Wow. I feel like a lot of this definitely reflects the ages that they're at in terms of maturity level, for sure. Because I don't think that two level-headed adults would have found themselves in this situation. Going back, I don't think the sister in the first place should have tried to keep the plant, which was clearly not hers. It was brought there by her sister. It doesn't matter if you were taking care of it or not. Like, it's not your plant. Like, it's your sister's plant. So I think that was like the first place it went wrong. I think we could have avoided this whole situation by just, you know, calling a spade. Like, that was your sister's, leave it at that, whatever. But I find it interesting that her sister was saying, like, just drop it, it's just a plant. But if she truly meant that, if she truly felt like it was just a plant, then she would have given it back in the very beginning. So she clearly knows the value, sentimental value or whatever that the plant brings, but she just doesn't want to admit it, and she's trying to like downplay how her sister feels. So I think in that first scenario with the plant, her sister was definitely the a-hole. And I don't think that you can say, oh, well, I'm just gonna keep this plant based on the frustration and anger that you brought me. Like, you can't just like make that call. Like, that's something that has to be like agreed between two people. Like, you can't just say, I'm gonna just like sue you for $1 million because you pissed me off. Like, you have to have grounds for it. You have to be able to justify it, you know? So first case, sister was the a-hole, and then in the second case where the person who posted this was like, I just stole her plant. How did you think that was gonna turn out? I mean, she clearly admits she knows it was the wrong thing to do, but like, you don't fix one wrong with another wrong. It's just never proven to work. So in that second situation, she was definitely the a-hole, but I find it crazy that she like got in the car with this plant and like drove off. Imagine this plant that's just like, why is this happening to me? Leave me be, leave me alone. And now I want to know which plant it is. Was it a pothos? Was it a philodendron? Tradescantia? What was it? I have to know. I guess looking at it from like an outside view, the whole situation in its entirety, I think you just have two very immature girls, sisters at that. Like, if you have a sister, you know the type of arguments you get into, and your sister can piss you off like no other person can. It's like someone can do you dirty and you'll be like, oh, that was so annoying. But if your sister does the same exact thing, it's like your world is ending and there is no sense of like rationality. You just see red. And I do think that there are sister relationships that are actually toxic, like truly toxic. When me and my sisters fought, it was like very surface level. Like we never like ignored each other for like weeks or whatever, like iced each other out. It was very just like, give me back my shirt and I hate you, and then like an hour later we're fine. I would say they're equally a-holes. Equal a-hole sisters. They did the same exact thing to each other, and I don't know how they thought. It's like the first sister is mad that her sister took her plant, so she does the same thing to her, and then her sister gets mad that she did the same thing to her. It's like, how can you get mad for something you literally did to one another? You guys should just shake hands or like pillow fight and then call it a truce. Call it even at that point. Now you both have a plant. No, but if that was me, my sister would have had to pry my plant out of my cold, dead hands before I let her say, oh, I'm keeping it just because you've made me mad. Nice try, sweetheart, not gonna work. Whew. She is upsized and I am feeling so much better about it because, oh my gosh, it dried out so fast in that little pot. This plant is actually quite thirsty. So I'm feeling good. Overall, you guys, today was a bittersweet day. Like I feel like I got some plants into better situations. I feel like some, you know, I'm obviously gonna have to keep an eye on, and there's some very, very, very valuable, both from a financial standpoint and like sentimental standpoint. It's probably the two plants that are rehabbing the worst are probably some of my favorites. I'm not happy to be in this position, obviously, but here we are. So anywho, just counting down the days until winter is over. Honestly, I'm ready for some warmth. I'm ready for some sunshine, and I'm ready for some of my anthurium to start getting the environmental conditions they deserve, because it is rough. It is rough out in the living room right now. And I'm surprised most of them are actually doing quite well. Hopefully I get this fungal situation under control. I will let you know how it goes. I will link the copper fungicide that I'm using in the description. Copper fungicide isn't going to reverse any damage, but it should at least stop it from spreading, I hope. I need to clean my nails out. I need to clean my body. I need to clean this plant room. It is an absolute disaster. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. For another, is this going up on Saturday? I actually think this might be a Wednesday upload. So either Wednesday or Saturday. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching another video. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this little series. I will definitely try and do maybe one a month or one every other month if I can. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you in the next one.